Federal member for Perth, Tim Hammond, is being applauded this afternoon after he quit politics, saying his family needs him. The 43-year-old father of three has been described as a decent man for cutting short his up-and-coming career, which saw him spend large chunks of time away from his young family. I want to discuss this further with Bruce Robinson from the Fathering Project and our parenting expert, Claire Orange. Good afternoon to you both.
Afternoon,
Tracy.
Bruce, to you first. You've described Tim Hammond as an inspiration.
Yeah, it is a great inspiration because he's a guy with huge talent and also he's well liked. So his trajectory was going to go up like that in the Labor Party. And he made a courageous decision. And as a doctor, I see men at the other end who, unfortunately, when they're, I've got to break the bad news to them, they say it's too late. Yeah. I wish someone had told me this or inspired me when the kids were young. And his kids are 6 and under. So he's done just a beautiful thing that I hope will inspire lots of dads.
Absolutely. And Claire, mothers shelve their careers for the kids all the time. Why do you think a father doing it has struck such a chord?
Well, I think it's much more unusual still in our society for dads to give up work and give up a position like that. I mean, he's not coming out of any position. He's coming out of a position that he's been fighting for close to a decade now, and it's quite a big sacrifice. Not that giving up work for anyone isn't a sacrifice, but certainly, for our men, it's relatively not unprecedented, but certainly not common.
Yeah, Bruce, is this an example of the changing role of fathers these days?
I think, Tracy, it's a changing awareness. I think what we've found all the time in the Fathering Project, talking to older dads, is that they honestly thought that their role in life was to provide for the family and a bit of discipline. But now they realise that their role is much more powerful than that, and also that when kids grow up, including Tim's kids, when they grow up, they are facing vastly different challenges than our dads did. Challenges of cyberbullying and drugs and all sorts of things. Already been on your news program. And so dads are realising how powerful they are and what they need to do. Yeah,
it's certainly a very different society these days. Claire, are you seeing fathers stepping up more in your line of work?
Oh, absolutely, Tracy. Running parent workshops now as opposed to 10 years ago, certainly I'm looking at having at least 30% of the room filled up with dads and granddads, which is just incredible because, we're looking at that shared partnership around decision making for children, which is, it's so rich in a family that parents are going to be working together, and that dads, whether they're working with a partner or they're working by themselves, really taking responsibility for the emotional health of their children as well.
Yeah, Bruce, you mentioned there just talking about changing the awareness for fathers and obviously the social issues that kids are facing these days. So this day and age, why are fathers so important in terms of bringing them up, particularly with the society that we're living in at the moment?
Well, not to sledge my gender, but mums typically are doing a really good job and dads are a lot more often missing in action. And so mums get sick of doing the work by themselves. And kids have their radar out. It's like a little radar on their head for what dad thinks of them. And if dad is missing, then kids think I'm not worth spending time with. And that's their biggest risk when they're at a party 20 years later, 15 years later, being offered drugs. Well, I'm not worth much, then I may as well just take them. But that sense of self-worth, my dad spends time with me, he takes me out on dates and takes me on trips, and I must be worth spending time with. That's like a magic pill to reduce the kids' risk of all the things we worry about.
Absolutely.
Drugs and depression and suicide, etc.
And just quickly, Claire, just as a partner to a husband or a father, what advice would you give people out there in terms of supporting someone like what Tim's decision, or his decision that he had to make?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's going to be a new move for him and his family if that's the role. And certainly we know that our stay-at-home dads form a very small percentage of our community out there, which can lead to lots of isolation. So for those dads out there who are spending a lot of time at home and with their children, where there's not a lot of other dads out there to be doing that journey with, is find your folk and make sure that you have some good, healthy time away from your children as well. To be a good dad and to be a good mum, you actually need to take some time for yourself as well.
Absolutely. All right. Very interesting chat. Bruce and Claire, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tracy.